Good morning. Welcome to Shawnee Mission Unitarian Universalist Church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. We are so happy that you've chosen this YouTube channel, this Sabbath, this sanctuary in time. We know that you have so many options on Sunday morning, and that you choose to be here is something that we celebrate. We extend an especially warm welcome to our visitors and anyone who may be watching our service online for the first time. Take a moment to say hello to old friends, new friends, and especially anyone who may be with us for the first time. Remember, we were all newcomers once. And if you're joining us online, please say hi in the chat. We now invite everyone to rise and greet one another.
Start today's service. We are very excited to welcome violinist Prajnapurna Bangire. Please join me in welcoming him and enjoying his musical offering. We've asked him to come and play today because the opera from which our service is based on today has influences of Indian classical music. Thank you so much. Good morning. Today I have just a few announcements. First of all, today is a whole church service, which means that the children will be invited to stay here the entire time, although also there is childcare if you need to take them. This means that the children will be asked to come forward multiple times during the service and that the whole hour is planned to be accessible to all ages. Secondly, I would love to tell you all about sabbatical today, but we planned a very rich April worship calendar, so you have to wait till April 28th when it's on the calendar. Secondly, today's service is in dialogue with the Haberdasher Prince, a new opera for families, which is commissioned by the Lyric Opera of Kansas City. The Haberdasher Prince is touring to community spaces in Kansas City this month, and we are so excited that this opera is going to be here this Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., April 10th, and we already have 130 RSVPs, so you got to get in. This is a free event, and we invite everyone to attend, the young, their families, and the young at heart. There will be a dinner before the opera at 5:30. We have two very special guests here with us today, which we're very honored to have. Composer Rosabella Gregory of the opera and librettist Dina Gregory of the opera. They will be in dialogue with us later in the service. Welcome. Let's do our final announcement today from Johnny Neal from the Veterans Community Project, who's here to tell us about our Donate the Plate.
Good morning. I'm Johnny Neal. I'm with Veterans Community Project. But first, I want to say I'm so humbled to be here with such amazing people. So it's a great way to start a Sunday. Veterans Community Project, our mission is to end veteran homelessness. We do it by having complete wraparound services and a village of 49 tiny homes here in Kansas City, and we've expanded through other cities throughout the United States. I got involved with Veterans Community Project because I spent 17 years in the Army. I was wounded in Iraq in 2005. Believe it or not, I used to be paralyzed from the waist down, and I lost everything when I was injured. I had a home in New York State, and I lost that when I was wounded. And organizations like Veterans Community Project allow us to pick up our brothers and sisters and help them get through some of the most incredible hurdles that they have to face. But that's just a little bit about what Veterans Community Project is doing. I encourage everybody to get out and take a tour. It's on 89th and Troost. You can go to vcp.org and find out all about our mission. But it's really fabulous work that they're doing. And I say they, I have a small piece in that. But yeah, check it out. And thank you so much for allowing me to come into this awesome place and speak to you this morning. Thank you.
You can look at all of our social media platforms later this week where we'll be posting a video about the Veterans Community Project. Our call to worship today will start with a short visualization. I invite you to close your eyes and imagine in your mind's eye an instrument with 4 strings made of silver and steel, carved out of a single block of ton wood with a round resonator and broad fingerboard, and the resonator is parched with a fine membrane of goat skin. It is played by gliding one's thumbnail on the string like a talon. Whatever you see in your head is called the gilrabi. You may open your eyes. The Haberdasher Prince is about a young prince who is forced by his father to go on a royal tour playing the gilrabi, despite being terrible at it. After he plays, the audiences feign their admiration by ripping strips of their clothing and throwing them on stage because they were afraid of disappointing the royals. The young man then collects these strips and makes fabulous clothing from them, sewing being his true passion. Hear these opening words from the Haberdasher Prince. I could a tale unfold, if I so wished and you so bold, would journey to a far-off land with strips of fabric in your hand. Come, let us fashion from the strips of our cast-off scraps fabulous and colorful lives that are true and authentic to our beings. Please rise as you're willing and able for our opening hymn, number 346, Come Sing a Song with Me. Each month, we as a community take time to reflect on a theme. The children do this in their classes, and we do it in our small groups, and then we do it here in worship as well. This month, the theme is interdependence. We're going to do it in a dialogue today. So, Neil, did you always want to play music?
Yes, for as long as I can remember.
And what did your parents think about that?
Well, they were supportive of me playing music, but as a hobby, not as a career.
What did they want you to do?
Something that would pay the bills, like a military career, or oddly enough, my dad really wanted me to be a mortician.
So then, how did you get to where you are today, paying the bills with music? Did you do it all on your own?
No way. One of the joys of music making is doing it with others, in harmony and in collaboration.
But you're an opera singer. Doesn't that mean you stand alone and are the star?
Well, when people think of opera, they often do visualize a stereotypical diva or divo, but the reality is that for every person on stage, it takes at least 20 people behind the scenes to make everyone shine. Just think of all the individual notes being produced by the players in an orchestra coming together to weave a tapestry of sound.
You know, I can relate to that because here in church, I stand up here and speak, but if no one was here, I'd just be talking to myself. Me being here is actually about the community and all the people who make this a welcoming space and a community, which one person cannot do by themselves.
You know, that kind of reminds me of a school. And so kiddos in the congregation today, think about all the people who make your education and lives happen. Teachers, the janitors, the people in the office, school nurses, your parents, librarians, the other kids, the people who make the roads so that you can get to school, the people who made the buildings, the people who design the curriculum, all so that you can study a single subject for an hour a day.
You know, I need to remember this when I feel pressure to do my job perfectly.
Rev Rose, are we recovering perfectionists? Because here's a peek into my brain. If I fail alone. If I succeed, it's because I am great.
I can relate to that. I have often actually fallen prey to something that I learned when I read the 13 Habits of White Supremacist Culture, which is perfectionism and the belief that there is one right way. And at my worst, if I feel that I'm not doing it the one right way, I have this sneaking suspicion that even a small mistake could lessen my value. But then I remember that too often we lose sight of how connected we actually are to others. That actually all of our successes are shared and that no one gets anywhere by themselves. It's like what you were saying about harmony, how even every single note is in relationship with every other note in the song.
And that's what the Haberdasher Prince is about how connected we really are if we dare to live authentically. Should we tell the story of the opera?
Yes, kiddos, come on up here and I'll tell you a story. Hi. Where are you going? Come back over here. Come on, come back over here. What's your name? Ruby. There's another Ruby, but I think she's in the nursery. Let's sit right here. Let's sit right here on the ground. Let's sit down. Hi, everybody.
Okay, so I have a question for the kiddos and everybody else in the room. Raise your hand if you like to tell stories. Yay. What are some ways that we can tell stories? How do we share stories?
What about, could you tell a story with your voice? Could you tell a story with a movie? Could you tell a story with dance? Yeah, that was kind of like maybe. You could, because I could be like, I'm walking, I'm sitting, that's the whole story.
There's many ways to tell stories. You know, the books that you read, even the video games that we play at home, those are all stories, and we love to share them. That's something we all have in common.
How many of you recognize the word opera? Do you guys know the word opera? Have you ever heard of an opera? Well, okay, what do you think of when you hear the word opera? Music, What I thought of when I heard the word opera was like a fancy lady on stage.
With Viking horns?
With Viking horns and like a big hard dress on. That's what I always thought of until I met Neil. And we'll tell you more about that later.
So I like to say that opera is musical storytelling. And I love opera because it's really big. It's what we call an interdisciplinary art form, meaning it incorporates elements of theater, dance, orchestras, costumes, props, scenic design, and so on. All of those individual things that we use to tell stories coming together.
Well, guess what? There's going to be an opera this Wednesday in this room. It's called the Haberdasher Prince. Now, do you remember our former music director, Kelly? They're going to be there singing in the opera. Do you remember our other former music director, Neil? He's also going to be there because he organizes this whole thing. Now, do you remember our former office administrator, Emily Stott? She will also be there because the lyric stole all of our employees, which is fine because we love our new employees so much. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this story. Let me tell it to you. Okay, ready? There once was a king whose musical talent was as dazzling as his golden domed palace. Now the king had a son, and it was assumed by all that the prince would inherit his father's gifts. In preparation, the infant was bathed in the distinctive rhythms and tones of an assortment of instruments, more than he was actually bathed. And when one morning the little prince reached for the silver-stringed gilrabi that I was talking about before, why, it was a very happy moment for King Hamlet. "My son chooses my own instrument," he says. Now Prince Panderbash grew tall as King Hamlet grew deaf. And this particular deafness, it's the kind that comes with power. And when his son turned 13, the king announced a royal tour so all the kingdom could marvel at his son's virtuosity. Enormous crowds gathered at every performance, and what a reception. Those wealthy enough ripped at their clothes, tossing strips of chintz and brocade and damask at the performing prince, which was the custom in those times. But as they shredded their garments, they gritted their teeth, for none liked to say what the other one was thinking. The music is not good. The prince, for his part, was indifferent. He took to sewing the strips of chintz and brocade and damask into fanciful costumes, modeling each new creation as he played. Now here was pleasure indeed. But when the king caught the prince at his needle, he cried, "Why do you sew such things? You are not a slave. You are Prince Panderbash, son of King Hamlet, inheritor of my great gifts." This did not stop the prince. It went on this way, the crowds heaping praise in public while privately cringing, until the day Prince Panderbash performed at a town far in the north. For in the audience was a servant girl, herself a player of those silver strings, but only for the pleasure of her own masters. When she heard the prince play, she covered her ears, and as soon as it was over, she shouted, "The prince plays horribly!" There followed an ominous silence, until suddenly a king's guard bellowed, "Who dares insult the prince?" The girl, a fearless thing, shouted, "I do." And the king, eager for blood, demanded that his son name a punishment for her. "I will take her as my slave," replied the prince with disinterest. He had no stomach for violence. Meanwhile, the girl's mother wept for joy, far better to serve royalty than the rogues in her own town. But Prince Panderbash and his new servant soon came to an understanding. She was named his seamstress, though she never held a needle. Instead, she held the Gilrabi in my How She Played, hidden from view behind a curtain as the prince strutted in his hand-sewn clothes, miming the plucking of the instrument. No one believed the deception, save the king. But audiences found it far easier to pander to Prince Panderbash when their ears were not being assaulted. And behind closed doors, they called her the Gilrabi angel and he the Haberdasher Prince.
Thanks for sharing the story. And thank you, Dina, for writing the story. We love it. So in the reverse offering today, you are going to hand out strips of fabric to everyone in the room. When we put these strips of fabric together, combining all of our different experiences and identities, they can tell an amazing story. I hope you all get to come to the opera on Wednesday.
Okay, you may go back to your seats.
Hi, everyone. I'm over here. So I am Dina's sister. I am the composer. My name's Rosabella Gregory. You can call me Rosie. I'm about to just assault the microphone for a second. Hang on. So I'm really, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for inviting us to be here. It's a really lovely, welcoming, warm, just wonderful experience. I'm from London, so you might be wondering what my accent is. I'm going to do my best to sing these songs a little slower because I have a bit of a London accent. I was invited to play some of the music from our opera, but nobody wants to hear me sing opera because I don't have an opera voice. I think that's quite an interesting thing. I thought instead I'll play you a couple of songs. This one, the first one is, as you can see, called Grateful, with lyrics by Dina. I thought it'd be nice to introduce you to how we write and tell stories with music, because we're often asked, what comes first, the words or the music? How do you do it? Dina lives in America, I live in England, so a lot of it's done via email. For this particular song, I chose it because it feels like it's in keeping with a few of the themes we're talking about. It was a commission from an initiative called Hear Her Song that teamed or paired creative women with female leaders. So I was asked to write a piece of music for somebody called Shavika Sina. I'd never heard of her before, but she's considered a leader. Now, she's a really fascinating person. She's a very successful businesswoman. I didn't find this particularly interesting about her. I read about her story through a transcript that she did an interview, and this is how we'd write the song. We'd read this transcript and find something to write a song about. What did get my attention and Dina's attention was the fact she traveled, and that what also got us interested was that she was so successful, and yet she felt compelled to do something useful with her life. Now, many people will go, I've made lots of money, I'm going to sit back and enjoy this and just have a great time. But Shavika became very interested in the idea of, she has a social awareness. She became an activist for something that she coined conscious consumerism. Again, I thought, what does that mean? I need a dictionary to understand this. What it means is she wanted people to think about, when they're buying things, where does that thing come from? When they consume something, where did it come from? Where was it grown? Where was it imported to? Who created it? Who brought it to her? And she wants people to think about that. The other compelling thing about her, and the reason for this song, is that she was sick for a long time as a child. And immediately, Dina and I thought, there's something very interesting about her journey. She traveled a lot, and then for a very long period of her life, she was sick. And in her interview, she said, I'm grateful for being poorly for this period of time, which basically paused my life and helped me think about who I am and what I have. And I'm grateful for the obstacles that came my way in that period of time, so that afterwards I felt an awareness of gratitude for being healthy and for being someone who has a chance, if you like, a second chance. There was our song, Gratitude. There was our song, She's Traveled. There was our song, somebody who felt that there was a sense of purpose. And it's funny because I don't think she thought of herself as a leader, but because she felt compelled to be someone with purpose and with a sense of social awareness, she attracted people to follow her, and hence that's how we came to know her. So I'm now going to stop talking and try and sing this song for you. It's called Grateful. When I was young and my window on the world was as shifting as a bottle drifting oceans with the tide, stories were free from the mountains to the fields, ever growing all around me, to be watered, to be known. Heroes come in many sizes. Life is littered with surprises. Now I find I'm grateful, grateful for the winds that sent me. I'm thankful, thankful for the lens it lent me. We are one, falling like the rain, different and the same, and always falling. When I was sick, in a body under siege, without motion, in delirium, on the brink of giving in, time was a friend with the patience of a saint, barely passing, so the healing would be lasting, would be whole, until I could see that changes happen for a reason. Lessons come with every season. Now I find I'm grateful, grateful for the pain that filled me. I'm thankful, thankful for what didn't kill me. We are one, falling like the rain, different and the same, and always falling. I'm grateful, grateful for the tears that bathed me. I'm thankful, thankful for the call that saved me. We are one, falling like the rain, different and the same, and always falling on our faces. I'm grateful, grateful for the pain that filled me. I'm thankful, thankful for what didn't kill me. We are one, falling like the rain, different and the same, and always falling. Grateful.
We come to this place to see and be seen, to teach and be taught, to hear and be heard, and I'll add to practice gratitude. I invite you to reach over and nudge the person sitting next to you, reminding them that we're here together, gathered in peace and authenticity and intention. We also come to this place to share our joys and sorrows. If you have a joy or a sorrow to share, I invite you to come forward and light a candle. You can share what's in your heart or on your mind in 1 to 2 sentences. You can share in a single word, or you can just light a candle.
I have a joy to share, which is that as of tomorrow, I will be 12 weeks pregnant with my first child.
I'm Richard Pease, Heidi's adopted father. She says that Pablo Picasso said, a pro must learn all of the rules and then break them as an artist. She is out there breaking them. She will be here tomorrow night to present her art in the gallery.
I'm lighting a candle for Chet Johnson, who fell last week after the service. He is doing fine, getting PT, and did not have a break. Yes. Please join me in singing our Joys and Sorrows song. Now let us take a moment to come more fully into this place, placing your feet flat on the floor or however you are comfortable in your body, closing your eyes if you wish, relaxing into your chair, noticing if there's an area in your body that is tense or tight, and breathe into it, saying, relax. It's okay to relax here. We will do another visualization for our meditation today. So as you sit with your eyes closed, in honor of our opera, I invite you to draw to mind someone from your own life who played the music for you when you couldn't play your own music. Someone who believed in you, when you didn't believe in yourself, who pushed you when you would not have moved. Draw into your mind's eye their face, their smile, maybe even remembering something they said to you. And now I invite you to imagine what you would like to say to them. Thank you. In all gratitude and all thank you, we say thank you to those who made us who we are, who played the music for us when we could not. In gratitude. Blessed be and amen. You may remain seated in your seats for our meditative hymn number 123, Spirit of Life.
So before we dive into what I know will be a fabulous conversation with Rosabella and Dina, I want to give you a sense of the framework for this project. As many of you know, I work at Lyric Opera as Director of Learning, where I oversee the company's programs of education and community engagement. And we are very interested in the notion of artistic literacy. How does one connect personally and meaningfully to works of art, and through that process, forge connections to our shared humanity? The Haberdasher Prince is part of our new family opera initiative, in which we produce works suitable for families, intergenerational audiences to experience together. Beyond just presenting the operas, we want folks to go deeper in how they engage with the art. We're touring the Haberdasher Prince to 10 community spaces throughout the Kansas City metro this month, and every performance will be followed by a discussion to connect the dots between the individual in the audience and the art on stage.
And now I'm very excited to introduce composer Rosabella Gregory and librettist Dina Gregory. Please join me in welcoming them for a dialogue. We're so grateful that you're here. So, our first question for you, one or both, which is a question about music but also about life, is how do you know when you are in harmony, aka when something in your life is working or you're on the right path?
Like me to start? So I had a very, this one is very clear to me. For me, when I lose track of time is when I feel like something is working. So I'm thinking not just writing, but writing is most specific. I think of it like, almost like in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, when they step through that wardrobe into the portal into another world. That's how it feels for me when I'm working on something and it's coming. I just completely lose track of time. I'll look up and it's maybe 8 hours later and I haven't eaten, I haven't even thought to sit comfortably. I sort of lose myself in that. On the flip side, most of the time as a parent, as a spouse, as a working woman, I'm so aware of time. It never feels like I have enough time. I'm harried. I'm just watching the minutes tick by. So for me, there's a joy in that feeling of just, getting lost and a bit like reading a good book. But I'm very lucky I get that from my work. But that's usually a good sign. When it's labored and when I have to, really struggle, it means it's not coming as easily. It may not be as good, but when it just flies out and I'm in another world, that's for me how I know.
Thank you. That makes me want to go do something that gives me that feeling. Thank you.
Next question. Is there anyone who was a complex villain in your life? I'm thinking of the king in the opera, but curious about this.
I struggle to think of anyone as a villain because I feel like people are so nuanced, and the king in our piece, as we discussed yesterday with the Q&A afterwards, he's fallible and he's flawed, but we're all flawed. So I feel, strangely, when I read that story, I loved him because I felt for him. I had a teacher at school who I was convinced didn't like me at all. And I was about 14. He was my music teacher. There's an irony there. I was probably, in hindsight, I was very shy. You can probably see we're pretty awkwardly shy. We're English and we're awkwardly shy. But I was I was super shy. So I lived a lot of my anxiety in my head. And I didn't know why, but he was mean to me and he was really nice to the other students. And I really thought, gosh, what could it be? I looked very different. I, as you can probably tell, I look different here too. So I already thought maybe it's because I look different or because I find music really easy. I really did. I just found it easy. I loved it. And it was about a year later where he, for some reason, had to take his son to school. Childcare issues. I think his wife couldn't look after their son. And I saw that his son had needs that would mean that he would probably for his whole life need to be looked after. And I saw how unbelievably gentle and kind and loving he was with his son. And I was 14, but I thought, I see that he's got the struggle. There's this student of his who maybe he thinks, you find everything so easy, you're very good at music, you're young, the whole world is your oyster. It turned everything upside down. He didn't dislike me. He was struggling with he was struggling because he loved his child. How do I know? But I think we probably put these things together and think maybe this was part of it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but something about that made me think, it's not always about you, Rosie. and it's not really your business if he didn't like you anyway. It doesn't matter. It helped me have compassion for him, and I think that helped me to not even forgive him, but understand when I thought he was unreasonable with me. So.
Thank you for sharing that. I can relate to that. That's a really beautiful story. Mm-hmm. Next question. In the opera, the prince was ultimately able to live his truth only after meeting his unlikely ally in the girl. We're wondering, who was an unlikely ally in your lives that played music for you when you couldn't?
This was the toughest question for me because I have probably what is a likely ally, and I've been blessed with her all my life. So whenever I've had to tell hard truths, I've had Rosie by my side. But the very literal answer that came to my mind is there was a period when I thought I should give up my creative pursuits and have my feet on the ground, get a real job. I had studied neuroscience at Oxford, and then I thought, well, I need to make a good living. I'll become a medical copywriter. So this was quite a few years of my life, but all through these years, I was wishing I could keep writing. And Rosie kept pursuing music, and she would set my lyrics, and she would be the voice in my ear saying, Go do what you love. Go do what you love. And finally, I was really hating my job, and started to contemplate coming to New York to learn the craft of musical theater writing. And it was expensive. It would be a huge upheaval, but it was Rosie saying, "Do it. Go follow your heart." And so she literally was the music that kept going, and then brought me back. And I really wouldn't be as fulfilled as I am had I not gone in that direction. So not an unlikely ally, but certainly an ally who continued to play the music.
Just say, maybe what you think is unlikely is because we're twins, and by you going to New York was effectively she would be far away. And she then stayed here forever, which is, she she met her husband, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't have.
Good point.
Who was the unlikely ally that stood by your side when you had to tell a hard truth?
I think I misunderstood the question the first time round because we saw the questions early, we got to prepare. So I did have something I wanted to share. It's not quite the answer to that. An unlikely ally for me would be somebody who maybe is like somebody who you maybe don't really like in the first instance, or someone that you just wouldn't expect you'd have a connection with. So even on that front, I got the question wrong. But here's what I thought. I was sitting with someone, and I was talking badly of my then boyfriend. I was complaining. And I don't know why I was trusting this person, but I think I was I'm not very happy to say this, but we're fallible, right? And I think I was at that point just frustrated. I'd gone on a tour with this musician. He's actually the musician who inspired the Haberdasher Prince, so there's a kind of loose connection. And he was calmly listening. We're friends, but not such good friends that I should have been having this conversation. And he then very quietly said, "I think you don't respect him." And I was shocked because I thought he'd say, "Oh, I understand, you should be, you deserve better," all this. But he said, "I think you don't respect him. And I think that's where the problem is." So he was telling me a hard truth, and that's how I interpreted your question, because I read it wrong. But I did think, again, that was a moment where something about his energy maybe made me say what I said to him, and I appreciated that he didn't appease me, and he wasn't criticizing me, he was just saying, right, so Sorry, that doesn't quite answer the question, but
No, that's wonderful. That's very relatable. It is hard to hear those hard truths, but you're like, thank you.
Well, and it's such a beautiful tie-in to the opera because there's that moment where the prince says to the village girl, I've spent years learning this miserable instrument, and she says without pause, it doesn't show.
That's like after, I'll just tell a quick story. After when I was a third of the choir during quarantine, does anyone remember that? One time after the service, my dad said, "It's okay, honey, they don't pay you to sing." Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. That is not the hardest truth he's ever told me. All right, in the last few minutes, we just have one more question, and I'm gonna get the fabric. So we're going to hand out this fabric in a few minutes, but I'd like you to hold it as we're going to ask the people to do. And if you were to be still in this moment and consider an intention for your coming creativity, what is one word that you would offer?
Daring.
curiosity.
Thank you so much for being here. It's just been so lovely and so much heart, and we're so excited to have the opera here and just feel really grateful to get to partner with the lyric. And yeah, thank you.
I now invite all the children forward to help with the reverse offering. The work of the church depends on us, our generosity of time, wisdom, and financial resources. Today, our Donate the Plate goes to Veterans Community Project. Today's reverse offering, offered to the adults in the room by the children, are strips of colorful fabric. Once you receive yours, close your eyes and hold it in your hand. What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What could you make with it? How can it tell your story? We invite you to give generously to support the ongoing work of the church. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared values.
Elodie and her mum live in a one-bedroom flat in Bethnal Green. Elodie is a special secret. Elodie is the dancing queen. Up the stairs she waits for no one. Tiny feet go pattering. Out on the roof for all of London, Elodie's soul is free to sing. Everything in slow motion, rhythm in earth and air, ever revealing answers to Elodie's dancing prayer. And everything comes together, everything comes together. Everything comes together, everything comes together when she's dancing. Elodie doesn't like the man her mother invited to stay. Elodie sees she makes him angry, so she stays out of his way. Up the stairs she taps her rhythm, tiny feet on skin of drum. Mama's boyfriend doesn't stand a chance against her dance, the moon and sun. Everything in slow motion, rhythm in earth and air, ever revealing answers, duality's dancing prayer, and everything comes together, everything comes together. Everything comes together, everything comes together. Everything in slow motion, rhythm in earth and air, ever revealing answers, duality's dancing prayer, and everything comes together, everything comes together. Everything comes together, everything comes together when she's dancing. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Everything in slow motion, rhythm in earth and air, ever revealing answers, duality's dancing prayer, and everything comes together, everything comes together. Yes, everything comes together, everything comes together. She doesn't dance for people, she doesn't dance for fun. Elodie knows no boundaries, she's dancing for the sun.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Please rise as you're willing and able for our closing hymn, number 1064, Blue Boat Home. Oh, to see the world outside, weave its wonders with our thread. Go forth, find love in what you do, be true to your own instrument. Go in peace, and Purna will play again, so enjoy it.
This is a Universalist church. This music is a quest towards universalism. It comes from geometry. It has a music without east or west, where the western sounds and eastern sounds are negotiated by American blues. You'll see that. It comes from my work in geometry.